In lesson 6-8, we're going to be dealing with simple interest and compound interest. Interest is something that if you need to borrow money, you will pay interest to the lender. If you are saving money or you're lending money, then you would be the recipient of the interest. They would pay you for using your money. So we're going to talk about two different kinds of interest. The first one is simple interest because it's very simple to figure. And again, you'll be able to use your calculator for this. It's just the principal times the rate times the time. I is the amount of the interest. P is the amount of the principal, or that's the money, the amount of money that's loaned or borrowed or saved. R is the interest rate, and we'll be changing that again from a percent to a decimal. The time is always expressed in years. If it's for 1 year, it's times 1. If it's 2 years, it's times 2. If you're buying a car and it says this is the interest rate for 60 months, then that would be 5 years. It would be times 5. If you're buying a house, that may be 10, 15, 20, 30 years that you will have that loan out on your house. So all we're going to do is use our calculator, and to find the interest, we're going to multiply the principal times the rate times the time, and then to find the total amount, we're going to add the principal plus the interest. So this is all just pretty simple. The only thing that might be difficult is changing the interest rate to a decimal. We're moving it 2 places to the left. We're moving the decimal point that we don't see in a whole number, but we know where it is. We're moving it 2 places to the left. And this is 3.5%. So again, we're moving it 2 places to the left. Those are the decimal values that we're going to use. And then the years will be 3 years, 4, 6 months is not in years, but we know that that's a half a year. So I'm actually going to be multiplying by 1/2 or 5/10. 66 months, we know that 60 months is equal to 5 years. And then we have another 6 months, and we know that that's a half a year. So 66 months is going to be 5.5 years. Everybody okay with that? So now what we're going to have to do is put these numbers in our calculator, push enter, and we'll have our answer for this. And then we'll add this. We're going to add this and this, and that's going to give us the total amount that we'll have to pay for this loan, or how much they will have to pay us if we're the lender, or if we're in a savings situation. We save this, they'll pay us this, they'll add this, and give us back our original plus this. So the first one, we have 2,000. A little trouble turning this on, times 7/100 or 7% times 3 years. And our answer for the amount of interest is $420. So the total amount that would be involved in this would be 2,000 plus $420. So it would be $2,420. The next one, we have 3,500 times 6% or 6/100 times 4, because it's for 4 years. And I'm getting $840 for the interest. Now I'm going to add the interest and the principal, and I'm getting $4,340. The next one, $10,000 at, I don't know why I wrote a 6 there when it should be a 7%, 7/100 times a half a year. And it looks like $350 interest plus the $10,000. So we would have $10,350 for our total amount. And the last one, 20,000 times 3.5% or 35,000 times 66 months would be 5.5 years. So our interest is going to be $3,850, and we're going to add that to the principal to find the total amount. So we have $23,850. So that's really pretty simple, as long as you know to multiply the principal times the rate times the time to get the interest, and then we add the interest to the principal to get the total amount. The second kind of interest is compound interest. And this is much more complicated. If you had a short period of time, you could just do it several times because it's for several years. But what happens is that if you're earning compound interest, after that first year, that interest is added to the principal, and the next year you are paid interest on this new amount. So each year you're not only paid interest on your principal, but you're getting paid interest on the principal plus any interest that you've gotten. So this increases with each year. And here we have an example of that. If we save $2,000, the first year we would have $2,000, and it's going to be a 7% interest rate. For 1 year, we would earn $140 in interest. So now, at the end of 1 year, we have $2,140 in this account. And now, the second year, this is now the beginning principal. So now we're paid 7% interest on that for the next year, and we get $149.80 interest, and that's now added to this amount. And you can see we had $140 in interest the first year. Now we're getting $149.80 the next year. So we add that to the principal, and now we have $2,289.80. Whoops, that zero is down there. So we're going to start with that. It's still 7% interest, and for a year, now we're getting $160.29. You see how this is growing. So at the end of 3 years, then we have $2,450.09, which is not what we would have if we did simple interest. We'd have 140, 140, 140. So we would be earning less money. So compound interest earns interest on the interest. Compound interest, it earns more than simple interest at the same rate. Now, instead of having to do all this, say if we had something for 10 years or 30 years, we would have to do that 10 times or 30 times, depending on how long this was in effect. And sometimes we are paid that not just once a year, we may be paid twice a year or 4 times a year, or sometimes I've heard it advertised that you're paid interest daily. So that interest is figured, on 1/365th of a year. That's the time but that little amount of money is added every day, and the interest then goes up, 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 up. So, to make this pretty simple, we are given this not so simple equation. The total amount in an account is given by this formula. We're going to have to use our order of operations when we work this, and hopefully our calculators as well. A is the total amount, and that matches on what we just did, the total amount. We're not going to get the interest separately. It's going to be figured the end amount. P is the principal, or the original amount we're investing. R is the interest rate, written as a decimal, of course. T is the length of time in years. And N is the total number of times compounded per year. Sometimes it's compounded once a year, sometimes it's compounded semi-annually or twice a year, sometimes quarterly, which would be 4 times a year or whatever. The problem will tell you how often the interest is compounded. So, when we do these, we want to do these 3 things each time we do it. We want to write this formula every time. We want to show the substitutions, in other words, what number that we put in for P and R and N and T. And then when we get to the end, we want to be sure to label our answers. And these, of course, will be dollars and cents. So here we go. We're going to write our formula to start with. P is equal, P times, and this is in parentheses, 1 plus the rate over the number of times. This sum is raised to this power, the number of times it's compounded, times the number of years. So we'll have to do this first, and then we'll have to do what's in parentheses, and then we'll take whatever we get here to whatever we got here, that power, and then we'll multiply that times the principal. So our problem says $1,000 is invested at 8% interest rate. So $1,000 is the principal. 8% is the interest rate. Compounded annually, so N is equal to 1 year for 3 years. So this is the time. So here we go. The amount is equal to the principal, which we said was 1,000, times 1 plus the rate. The rate was 8%, so we're using 800ths. And then this exponent is going to be the number of times compounded per year, which we said was 1, and the number of years in T would be the number of years, and it's 3. So we've now substituted. So this is going to be worth a point. When we get to the exam, this is worth a point. This is worth a point. And when we get to the end, our answer is going to be worth a point. Now, how much you want to show is up to you. I will show you what I like to do. So, here we go. I'm going to do this. I know that's 3. I'm going to add these together. I know that's 1 800ths. So, I'm going to multiply 1,000 times 1 800ths raised to the 3rd power. So what we know is we're going to do this exponent first. And I am getting, I don't know if you can see that or not. I can't see my screen up here to tell whether you can see it or not, but I have for this 1.259712, and I'm going to multiply that times 1,000. what I'm going to do, and later on this is going to be vital, I'm just going to leave this in my calculator. I'm not going to round. I'm not going to round until the very end. I'm not going to round until I have my final answer. Then I'll round it to the nearest penny. So I'm leaving this in my calculator and I'm multiplying by 1,000, which I wouldn't need to. I could just move the decimal point 3 places. And I am getting $1,259, 712 thousandths. Now, what I want is to round this to the nearest whole cent. The 2 says stay the same. We're going to drop that off. So my final answer, I'm going to label it as dollars, $1,259.71. So this is going to be worth a point. So you're going to have a point for the formula, a point to show that you know what numbers go in there, and then whatever you want to do, whatever you want to write down is fine with me. I don't care. I like to write a few things down in case I want to go back and check, in case I get an answer that I don't think that could possibly be right. I can go back and look and check and see that that's what was on my calculator, or that's what I put in my calculator. Okay, again, we're going to do the next one. We're going to do these 3 things. So I'm going to write my formula first. I will give you that on the test, but if you want to make any notes about that on your little cheat sheet, you know, what to do, like leave this in your calculator, that's up to you. I don't care. I'm going to talk more about this when we get to the geometry next week. I'll talk to you kind of how I would do that section, and then you can see how much room you need for that, for what you want to put on for that, and then fill in with anything else that you think. Okay, I'm going to substitute $2,000. This is the principal. I know that's going to be 5% is going to be the interest rate, and I'm changing that to a decimal. It's compounded annually. Annually means 1 time a year. So, we have 1 times, and this is the time, 3 years. So my exponent's going to be 3. We know that 500ths divided by 1 would be 500ths, plus 1 would be 1 500ths, and I'm taking that to the 3rd power. That's what I'm choosing to write down. So what I know is that I'm going to have to do this exponent first. To the 3rd power. And again, whether you write this down or not, you know, that's up to you. I'm going to leave it in my calculator. I'm going to leave this in my calculator, just like it is. And then I'm going to multiply it times 2,000. And I am getting $2,315.25. No need to round on this one. So this is my answer. So I've gotten a point for this, a point for this, a point for this. Don't forget to write the formula every time. Okay, we've got a couple more of these to do, and then we'll be finished with this lesson. Okay, so again, you know, we're going to do all 3 of these things. We're going to write the formula. Better use this pen. Principal times 1 plus the rate over, 1 plus the rate over the number of times compounded times the number of times compounded times the time. So the principal, this is the principal, 8,000. 1 is always 1 plus 5% interest, and we're going to use the decimal. Compounded quarterly, so n is going to equal 4. And the exponent is 4 times a year and a half. I'm writing that as a decimal so I can put it in my calculator. So I have written the formula, I've substituted, and now I'm going to work through till I get my answer. So I'm going to work through this part right here first. I'm going to divide 5/100 by 4. And I'm going to add 1 to that. And now I'm going to multiply 4 times 1.5, which is 6. That's my exponent. So I'm going to do the exponent first, and then I'll do the multiplication. So I have 1.0125 raised to the 6th power. And I'm getting a total screen full. So I'm just going to leave this in my calculator. I'm not even going to write it down for you. I'm just going to leave it in my calculator. I have a screen full of numbers. I can't tell what you can see. But it looks like this. But I know there's more after this. So I'm leaving it in my calculator because if I round at this point, I'm cutting off some stuff or adding some stuff on. And I'm going to multiply whatever this is, this number to the 6th power, times 8,000. And the total amount is $8,619.065444, and that may go on. And I want to round to the nearest cent, and the next place is a 5. So I'm thinking my answer is $8,619.07. This is after a year and a half. I have made $619.07 in interest on an account that's invested at 5% interest that's compounded 4 times every year. So in January, February, March, at the end of April, first part of May, they're going to figure the interest, add it to the $8,000, and then when I get to the next one, which will be May, June, July. Oh, I didn't. This would be 3 months, every 3 months, January, February, March. So the 1st of April, May, June, the 1st of July, and so forth. So they're going to be throwing interest in. So now we're going to figure it. We're going to figure this same thing, 5% interest, compounded quarterly, but now instead of a year and a half, we're going to do it for 30 years, like if you were buying a house. So we'll write our formula. And we'll substitute $8,000 the principal, 1 plus 5/100 divided by 4. And now we have 4 times 30 for our exponent. So that's going to be 120, right? That's going to be 120. And again, this is going to be 8,000 times 1 plus this, which is going to be this. But we're taking it to the 120th power. Okay, so I'm going to put this in my calculator. To the 30th power. And I am getting this on my calculator. That may be it. But I'm leaving it in my calculator, and I'm going to multiply whatever I got here, which is this, times 8,000. And I am getting $11,612.90688. I only invested $8,000, and now I'm getting back over $11,000. Is it going to be 90 cents or 91 cents? That 6 says go up, so the answer is going to be $11,612.91. So we're going to wait. We're going to wait till the very end to round. We're not going to round until we get this number here. After we do all of this, then we'll round to the nearest penny.